Australia's west coast is famous for its beaches, but we're taking the Backroads to Broome. Forget the highway, it's all about dusty tracks and wide open spaces. Join us as we cross the Midwest, the Gascoyne, the red dirt of the Pilbara and into the Kimberley via the Backroads to Broome. On this episode, we head east into the heart of the Pilbara, uncovering the stunning beauty that is running waters and the hidden gem Carawine Gorge, where red cliffs rise over calm, clear pools. Then, after days on the dusty road, we reach the coast of our final stop, Cable Beach in Broome. Good morning everyone and welcome back to the show. Now last night we found this great little bush camp just outside of Marble Bar, but today we're heading off to Running Waters and Carowine Gorge.
That's right mate, it's about 160 k's east of Marble Bar and you might even catch yourself a fish if you're lucky.
Excellent, I knew there was a reason why I put the rod in the car. Now this morning what we have to do is put a little bit of fuel into the Jimny and then head up the track. So I reckon we get that done, we'll make our way.
Let's get on with it.
Let's do it. Well, after a quick lick of fuel, we pack up and head east towards Running Waters. As we leave the bitumen behind, the road opens up to some of the most remote and untouched landscapes in the East Pilbara. It's a region few travellers get to see, vast, rugged and unbelievably beautiful. Out here the silence is deep, the skies stretch on forever and every turn brings out something new. All right, Dave, be careful coming down here. Looks like the last rains have really rutted the track up.
Yeah, it's pretty windy all the way in, actually, so, oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
Right, pick a good line. There's two big ruts up here. See if you can straddle them up. Up we get. Righto team, here comes the big cruiser and looks like Karen's dropped it right into that rut. Now luckily not too much damage, it's just hit that side step. The track into Running Waters is rocky and this time of year still pretty wet. Now after a slow and careful drive through the rocks, you're rewarded with one of the most breathtaking sights that you'll ever see. Team, this is Running Waters. Who would have thought that this oasis in the desert would be 160 k's from Marble Bar? This is Running Waters. It's fed by a hot spring and it is perfect for a swim. Oh, it doesn't get any better than this. Not far from Running Waters lies another Pilbara gem, Carawine Gorge. Carved out by the Ochre River over millions of years, this spectacular gorge is framed by towering red rock cliffs and peaceful watering holes that stretch for hundreds of metres. It's a popular spot for swimming, kayaking and just soaking in the serenity. Best part is, no crocodiles. So here we are at Carowine Gorge and I tell you what, I'm excited. There is fish jumping out of the water. This place is stunning. So we're going to get the campsite ready and then I'm going to be fishing into the night. Perfect time for fishing at the moment. The sun's just starting to go down on the other side of the gorge. Now, I've never fished up here. So I'm just trying out a few different lures just to see what kind of gets a bit of action. In particular, anything that's got a bit of a crank action on it. quite a few of the Halco lures fit the bill for this one. The Sly Dogs are quite good. Laser Pros, they're a bit big. So I'm choosing to go with the Sly Dogs for this one. And just to see if I can entice one of the Barra or Broome that are in this river. We're seeing fish jump out of the water here, so they're obviously feeding. It's a really good time, really good time. I've seen a couple of smaller fish follow the lure in so far, but I think I might change the colour up because this is something that I usually use for freshwater down south when I'm chasing redfin perch. All right, so he's on. It doesn't feel super big, but I've dropped 3 already, so I've changed the hook out on the treble. Still using the 30-gram twisty. Now, hopefully, I'm going to see something good at the other end of this because, like I said, after dropping 3, I really hope this is... There he is again! Look at that. Oh, come on. Almost at the shoreline. Here we go. Oh, look at that. Woo-wee. Oh, fish. Okay, so after dropping quite a few this afternoon, we've managed to finally land. Now, I haven't actually fished up in these waters before, so I don't know what kind of fish that we've got here today. But either way, we're going to release this bad boy, send him back, fatten him up, and then we're going to work out exactly what kind of fish that we caught today. But a great little fight, really good fun to bring in from the other side of the gorge there. And what do you reckon? Not a bad fish. All right, let's go put him back in the water, eh? Go, buddy. And off he goes. That was good fun. I'm gonna have to catch another one now. Okay, Dave, so here we are at Carawine Gorge on our last night of our 3,000k trip from the Perth all the way up to Broome via the Backroads. The Backroads to Broome. What were your highlights?
Well, mate, I love leaving town. I love going through that wheat belt area.
Yep.
Mulla was fantastic to go through. But the first big highlight, Kennedy Ranges.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, no, I had a really good time on the Kennedy Ranges, especially when we drove out with the Jimneys right onto that ridge line there and overlooking the cliff faces.
Yep.
A little bit scary, but also spectacular views.
It was. We were also joined by Meg and Isaac, which really added some more flavour to the team for the day. We really enjoyed their company.
Yeah, I was disappointed we didn't get across that river though.
The Gascoyne was tough. It was a hard decision, but
Yeah.
I've got to say that I'm pleased we did make that decision because we might not have made it here otherwise.
Well, look, like I said at the time when we were talking off camera, which was, you know, we're potentially risking anywhere up to not just today's filming or the day's filming, but anywhere up to 3 weeks worth of filming because we've got another trip to do in a few weeks' time up in Broome, and that would have put that in jeopardy as well.
You're dead right, and you know it's always the go to make safe decisions, particularly in those sorts of things. You know, you do see vision of Jimneys rolling over when there's a bit of river flow.
Yes.
And
yeah.
that just kept coming up in my mind at the time we were looking at it. The big cruisers and that, we all know they would have got through reasonably well, but it's the little Jimneys that just, you know, they do have limitations at the end
Yeah, I
of the
think
day.
we've reached the limitations on that, which is something that we're probably going to address later on, probably not in this interview, but still. In regards to those roads, they were pretty good quality, good conditions.
Outstanding roads, been pretty dry though, quite dusty,
Yeah,
but easily achievable for anyone towing an off-road caravan.
yep.
All of these roads, you'd obviously have to drop it over the top of the Kennedys and drop it going into running waters, but other than that, you know, there's people here at Carowine with caravans right along the river.
That's right, yeah, yep.
So it makes the trip from Perth to Broome an adventure in itself.
That's
you know,
right,
you
yeah.
see people just belting out of Perth to get up to Broome and then use it as a launch pad for the Kimberley. There's arguably places that are as good as or better than the Kimberley along the way.
Oh, look, I couldn't agree more, especially when you're travelling in between those regions. Wheatbelt, into the Gascoyne, into the Pilbara, and you're seeing the change in the landscape. You're seeing the hills pop up out of nowhere. You know, you go from this flat spinifex landscape all of a sudden we're surrounded by these beautiful hills, gorges, these little oases like this behind us, you know, and a bit of fishing. You know, absolutely fantastic. So that in itself, being able to see that transition from the central kind of route on the way up, I thought exactly right. It's a bit of an adventure, and it really improved the overall trip, I think. Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. And tomorrow we're going to hit the coast.
Yep.
And we've got that final mile into Broome. And hopefully we see our friends the camels again.
Yeah, Luke.
At the sunset on Cable Beach.
Definitely.
And it'll be beautiful to round out the trip there.
Now, it was a big trip, almost 3,000 Ks. I think we're at about 2,700 at the moment, so
Yep.
it's going to be over 3,000 Ks
Yep.
by the time we actually roll into town. Fairly big distance. Have you got any tips on your side of things in regards to doing a trip like this?
Well, get fuel when you can, not when you need it, because we've had situations where you go to that fuel stop that you thought was going to be there and they're out of fuel.
Yep. That was something we experienced on one of our first trips, the Gun Barrel, where we rolled into sandstone.
Dead right. And the other thing is, it pays to get the old paper maps out and just measure your Ks.
Yes.
Because it's quick and easy just to flip over a map and say that's about 200, but it's really 260 or whatever.
Yep.
And I've made that error as well before. So your fuel burn with extra weight on board and all those sorts of things is generally a little bit higher. And, you know, even tonight, we're in a really, really remote place. There's only really one fuel stop for us tomorrow.
Yeah, back at Marble Bar.
Yep. And if we don't get that fuel stop, we'll have to wait because the smaller cars just don't have the range to get to another point.
One of the other things I'd probably suggest is reaching out to local authorities to have a look at what the road conditions are like, in particular if you're going to be coming up this way in not necessarily the wet season, but if there's been storms or particularly high amounts of rain, you know, even out of season.
Yep.
Mainly because some of those roads are actually designated shut when they're wet. And penalties, and pretty hefty penalties as well, $2,500, apply to people breaking those rules. So reach out to those local authorities and make sure that the route that you're choosing to take is actually still available.
Yep. And I think probably lastly, it's preferable to try and travel in daylight hours.
Oh yeah.
The risk level goes up.
Yep.
There's a lot of cattle on the road along the whole route.
Yeah.
And they obviously quite risky at night. So plan your trips so that you get into where your destination for the night or the day.
That's right.
You know, but plans often go astray as well. So
Yeah,
be
we
prepared.
came in late quite a few times.
Well, be prepared to bush camp.
Yep.
There's plenty of bush camps. There's plenty of old roadwork sites, gravel pits.
Yep.
Most people have got hammer maps and those sorts of things. So, you know, you can find an old well. We stayed at a beaut place last night, which was a disused well. And, you know, be prepared to bush camp.
Now, we achieved this trip in 9 nights, 10 days.
Yep.
10th day being tomorrow. Now, that's pretty quick. If you were to do this purely on the leisure, how long do you reckon it'd take?
I'd allow on the thin side 2 weeks and on the really slow side 4 weeks with an optimum of about 3.
About 3, yeah. Look, I could see myself spending a couple of extra days in the Kennedys, certainly spend a couple of extra days here as well. This is beautiful here.
Definitely.
Well, mate, look, we've got Broome tomorrow. It's going to be a really good way to close out this trip, and I'm looking forward to it. Our final run takes us winding through the rugged back roads of Shay Gap and across the De Grey River, before we hit the Northwest Highway again and onto our final destination, Broome. Okay team, so here we are after 3,500 Ks of epic off-road driving. We finally made it to Broome and one of Australia's most iconic beaches. Dave, that was an epic journey.
Certainly was, Tony. There's only one way to Broome, and that's straight up the middle.
Straight up the middle. And what was your favourite part of that trip?
Getting that Jimny to the top of the Kennedy Ranges was an epic little trip for me, and I'll never forget it.
For me, I think that epic off-road driving that we did through Skull Springs put the Jimnys to the test. But I tell you what, that is an epic way to finish out a season. So we're going to see you on our next adventure. I tell you what, couldn't be happier. Enjoy. Thanks very much for watching the Backroads to Broome series here on the Wild Track YouTube channel. And this is the end of the series, and we would love to hear your feedback. We hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe, comment below, and we'll catch you on the next adventure.